I've had up-team conversations with our great General Hoyer and the situation of where we were on the flooding and the flood relief and all that. I'd like to just tell you just this, because as more information comes in, it's important to me that you know this, because I go back to what I said before about the flood victims. Contrary to what anyone may ever think, as I said a couple days ago, I lived it. You know, I was there, I saw the devastation, I saw the sorrow, I saw all the stuff about it that was just gut-wrenching. Now, in doing so, we came upon a situation here that it was brought to our attention about a change order that we've rehashed that ground many, many times. And then we decided that the best thing we needed to do was find out what in the world was going on. And so we went through a time period of trying to find out what was going on. But if I could just take you back just a second and think about this just 1 second. Was the pause good or was the pause bad? And I'm telling you, the pause was incredibly, incredibly a life-saving good. And the reason for that is just as simple. You see, no one, if I would have known that the guy in Clendenin was going to the bathroom in a porta potty every day and there wasn't anybody really there to help him. But it wasn't a matter of just, you know, if I would have been sitting on the top of the dome 24/7, I wouldn't have known about the guy in Clendenin. Because to be just as honest as I know how to be, from the standpoint of even the guard, from the standpoint of all the king's horses and king's men in my office, from the standpoint of other legislatures, there was no antennas up anywhere. Nobody was screaming from the mountaintops that there was a problem anywhere. And so all of a sudden, which fell in our lap, the change order. And then remember, even if everyone would have been doing everything they could have possibly done, we didn't have any money from HUD until February the 23rd, I think. So nothing could have been done before February 23rd. But I keep going back to the same thing. Nobody knew. Nobody anywhere, legislatures, guard, governor's office, nobody really knew that we had a real problem. Now, and so then from that, we react. And like I said, anything that comes across my desk and comes to my attention, I'm going to fix. I'm going to fix it. Now, I would like to say one other thing. There was two branches to this whole thing. One was a FEMA, and we really should be sure that we report exactly this. One was a FEMA, private donations and so on program that was nationally recognized as beyond great. And there was 1,500, I think it's 60 homes or people that were flood victims that were taken care of. And everybody applauded that effort like nobody's business. And then the other branch was the HUD branch that nobody could have done anything with until February the 23rd. And from that, now what's happened is, because we paused, because of the change order, because of those things, now we have a movement on to move with the same type of national recognition that we got on the FEMA effort, on this effort. Now, General, please come and give us a little update, and then we're going to switch channels with everybody.
Yes, sir. So, 4 key points, and then the governor's asked for us to do an additional press event tomorrow at 9:30, and Butch will be working with you on that. Key things that are going on today. Database and case management system is in progress today of being consolidated into one case management system overseen by the VOAD and responsible to me, who is responsible to the governor. We believe we've identified a couple of key issues in the environmental process that we're working on today, and Jimmy Jeanette has the lead for us in helping to run those to ground. We've got one of them fixed already, and I believe no later than the end of the week we should have the other one fixed. We have a contract for demolition under the FEMA system. We still have 19 homes that needed to be taken down under the old process that will open, I believe, on the 14th, and we have a demo contract that we will be sending to purchasing for the HUD demo piece that will go out in the next few days. I have discussed with the governor and identified what we believe are some staff process shortcomings that we are in the process of working to streamline and fix, so that in my responsibility to the governor, I have a way to make sure that we can manage that effectively. And again, I would restate that every time I talk to the governor, I get the same message up front, and that is make sure we are taking care of the flood victims that still need support. So trust me, I understand directly his charter for us to do this, and he is pressing all of us hard to make sure that gets done, and we'll give you more details tomorrow morning on some other things that are moving in the process. Is that okay, sir?
Yes, sir, thank you. Okay, now let us switch channels with you. And let's just talk about West Virginia. And let's talk about what's happening and where we're going and the things that are happening every day. You know, and I keep saying the same thing, and I hope at some point in time that we will actually genuinely start telling the world about ourselves. I mean, when I walked in here, guys, and they handed me the books on day one, irregardless to what anybody may say in the world, this place, this state was as bankrupt could ever be. Any way you cut it. Nowhere to turn. Could not take any more money out of rainy day. Bonds being derated. Absolutely nowhere to turn. Drugs rampant. Education, you know, we're testing our kids totally to death, and just nowhere to turn. And on that day, we started down another path. Now, lots of things have happened, and you can listen to these people here. I believe with all in me that the great people of West Virginia and this great state deserve to feel hope, and the nation and the world to know how good things really are in West Virginia and where we're going. Now, do we still have a lot of work to do? Sure. Sure, we've got a lot of work to do. And we're going to stay at doing that good work until every last single West Virginian is some way, somehow, that we try to help. So there's a lot of work to do, but I am telling you, believe me, there's a lot of work done, and there's a lot of accomplishment accomplished. Now, what I become the most upset about from the standpoint of accomplishment is just this. If we continue to try to convince ourselves that we should know our place. Our place, in my opinion, should be at the top of the ladder. Our place shouldn't be one slot ahead of Mississippi. Our place ought to be the top of the ladder. And what a story to tell. Taking the worst numbers in the history of all time, the worst numbers that you could ever imagine. $497 million deficit. The current year that we were in, when I rolled in here, we're going to be $203 million upside down that year, or 219, I can't remember exactly which the number was, and 772 forecasted in the hole as we go forward. We turned those numbers almost that quick into hope, and every single month they get better. The last thing I'd add, and then I'll turn it over to these guys, the last thing I'll add is just this. April came in at $22 million to the good. We felt like May really wouldn't come in that good, and we felt like May wouldn't be, would be a little bit of a problem area. Well, May just came in at $20.2 million to the good. Above forecast. My thing is, at what point in time are we going to believe? At what point in time are we going to say, dang, things are really good. Things are really getting better. We are West Virginia, and we are on our way. And we're going to be able to help our people that are struggling. And there's going to be hope, and the drugs are going to go the other way. And there's going to be goodness all over the place within West Virginia. We are rebuilding our roads. We have made incredible strides forward in education. There's so much that we could talk about here. We could talk till we're blue-green. In the last legislative session, I put $58 million in the budget. And everybody said, oh, it's hocus pocus money. It's hocus pocus. Well, just to tell it like it is, we may very well turn the hocus pocus into money before we ever even get to the year we're talking about. So what I'm saying to you is just this. I don't pat myself on the back. I am telling you that I walked in here as a businessman, not as your run-of-the-mill politician. I walked in here as dead 50th and 50th and 50th. I walked in here believing in the people of West Virginia and knowing in my heart how good we really are. I can tell you, as you write, as you talk as people in our communities, as you believe in ourselves, it has a profound influence on us. We do not need to try to push ourselves down. We need to promote ourselves. This state is rolling. Any way you cut it, we're rolling in the right way. Now sure, we're going to stub our toes and have problems like we just went through on the flood relief stuff, but we've corrected that, and it's moving in a real profound way as well. Now, I can't tell you any more than just this. Any of us, whether it be the media, whether it be these people here, whether it be the people that are walking the streets out here, any of us, we need to be proud of our pond. We need to say for once in West Virginia, we're really on the move. And we are. We're on the move in lots of ways. Tomorrow, I hope that not only will the general report to you, but I will report to you on a coal idea that is really starting to catch and get traction. So nevertheless, today is a good day, another good day, and we need to be happy. But I think Secretary Hardy, I think you can speak next, if you would, please.
Yes, sir. As the governor said, in order to know where you're going, you got to look back as where you started and where you were. And when we came here, the governor and I, of course, came on the same day, January 16, 2017. We both got the same briefing from Mark Muco and Mike McCowan. And that briefing said that from January of 17 through June 30th of 18, 3 weeks away, we were going to be somewhere underwater to the tune of about $700+ million. And I had Mike go over those numbers with me twice because I just couldn't grasp it, that we were over $200 million short for the period January 17 to June of 17, and then $497 million projected shortage for the fiscal year that we're finishing up right now, the one that we're going to finish in 3 weeks. That was our starting point, and it was easy to think, what are we going to do? We're in a crisis here and we can't get out. But the governor said the following to us. He said, number one, I know the coal business and I know the severance tax business, and the severance tax revenue is going to get better. We raised our eyebrows. We walked out of the governor's office and we said, we sure hope he's right, but we're accountants and we're always conservative. Guess what, Governor? You were right. Severance tax revenue has gotten substantially better. A matter of fact, it's 13.3% more this year than it was last year, this fiscal year. The highways.
Gas and coal, not just coal.
Yeah, gas and coal combined. The highway program. The governor said, I'm going to do a highway program. Not only am I going to do a highway program, I'm going to convince the legislature to pass the revenue measures needed to fund the highway program, and then I'm going to have the people of West Virginia approve a general bond. Well, that bond, of course, was approved for the 55 counties, and we're just now, today, starting to see the full benefit of the bonds. If you remember, the Garvey bonds went to market last fall, about $220 million last October, and about 3 weeks ago, the $800 million general obligation bond issue was issued on Wall Street, first part of May. Those of us that went to the ratings presentation, I wish every West Virginian could have seen and heard what the rating agency said about what the governor has done and what we have done collectively since we've been here. The quote that we got from the rating agency was, the governor is on our page, and we understand where the governor is, and that was coming from Moody's. So we felt very good about that, and those bonds, of course, were sold at a premium. So looking ahead, we're just getting started on the impact of the highway program. But all the $800 million plus general obligation bonds, other bonds will be sold later this year, and the Garvey bonds. Better days are coming, but good days have already started to arrive. Now, looking at where we are today, as the governor said, we're $20 million up above projection for the month of May. We have been, since October 1st, month after month after month, October through May, we have been right on the money with these revenue projections. We've always been between 99%, and today we're at 100.4% of the projection. That tells me this is not a blip. This is a pattern. This is a pattern of improvement and optimism, and Mark Muco is going to give some numbers today about private sector employment and how much it's gone up this spring, in particular in the construction industry. And like I said, the highway program is just getting started. Looking ahead to the next 3 weeks, on June 30th, of course, we'll be wrapping up the fiscal year, and as conservative as we are, because we're all accountants up here, and I think sometimes we aggravate the governor a little bit, we are conservatively going to end the fiscal year $30 million plus above our projection, possibly even up to $50 million. So as the governor said, it's very possible that we might end this fiscal year with the $58 million surplus that was of so much discussion during the legislative session this spring. So where is this coming from? Severance revenue up 13.3%. But the number that really catches your eye, and Mark, of course, being an economist, can give you detail about it, is the personal income tax number is up 6.4% on personal income tax withholdings. By any stretch of the imagination, that is a very, very positive number and indicates a lot of things. And Mark's much better explaining it in detail than I am, but it indicates that employment numbers are up and that we are seeing a lot more revenue coming in through withholdings. So I think we're beginning to see the benefit of all the hard work and all the vision that the governor brought here in the spring of 2017. As I look ahead, and we look ahead, and I think about where we're going, I think that if the people of West Virginia would pay as much attention to our financial picture as Wall Street, they would understand how well we're doing, because Wall Street gets it. They have said that we are moving from a negative outlook to a stable outlook on our bonds, and they watch everything we do every day. And it's been a really, really good 18 months. And Governor, I'll say for the record, on some of the things that we argued about, you were right. We had a few disagreements from time to time about numbers and projections, and of course we're conservatives, and we always try to keep the numbers conservative because that's what we want to do. But looking ahead, I think that next fiscal year, the one that starts on July 1st, is going to be even better than the one we have today, because the road bonds are really starting to pump money into the economy, among many other things. So these are great numbers, and with your permission, Governor, I'm going to have Mark Muco explain the employment data.
I think that's good. I'd just like to say just this. These guys are superstars. We argue a little bit and everything from time to time, and they are accountants, but they are superstars. I mean, they do terrific work, and even though we're hitting that 99.9 and 100.2 and everything else, which is phenomenal and everything, we're hitting those with numbers that we've placed into the budget that were the governor's estimates or the governor's revenues, and so that's really good, really good. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
The really impressive part of the state's economy is the employment numbers in recent months, which are running above our original projections. Our original projections were between 0.5% and about 0.8% growth. And in recent months, we've been consistently above 1% on employment growth. In fact, go back to October. October employment report was 0.6% increase on private sector employment, and then in November 0.8%, December 1%. We moved to February 1.4%, 1.2 in March, 1.2 in April. So very consistently above 1%. And as a result of that, the personal income taxes have really been the star performer in the revenue area. We're running about $60 million ahead year to date, ahead of estimate. And part of that is the withholding tax of wage and salary income. So not only is employment up, but so are wages up in West Virginia. We have nice wage growth. And our withholding tax year to date is running about $30 million higher than original projections. So that's a big part of that revenue enhancement, and that should carry over to next year. The big thing that occurred was the governor's road program that the legislature bought into, kicked off July 1st of 2017 with the enhancement of the road fund. And those road funds, we got over $100 million of enhancement in the current fiscal year, and the Department of Highways has been using that extra money to repair roads in the current year. Plus, they also got additional Garvey bond authority, and Garvey bonds were issued back in October of 17 to help, again, enhance the amount of funds for roads. And finally, the recent sale of bonds, $800 million worth of bonds were sold with net proceeds of $915 million for state roads. So that'll be a good boon as we get into next year. So that's sort of like lighter fluid on the numbers. It's not just roads, though. Mining employment's up because we had a nice rise in exports overseas. Coal production exceeds the Energy Information Administration's forecast. It's up to 93 million ton level at the present time on an annualized basis. That's a great improvement over a year and a half ago. We were about 80 million tons of coal production. So that's a big plus. And the natural gas industry with the pipeline expansions have also added to the employment numbers On the employment numbers, labor force participation numbers in April, always like to see more people participate in the labor force, and labor force numbers went up 9,400 jobs compared to April last year of people that want to participate in the labor force. And in terms of private sector employment, again, and these are all from Workforce West Virginia, they're the official tracker of employment data, 7,100 new jobs in the private sector, of which 3,500 happen to be in construction. But it's a bit more broad than just construction. We also have a 1,000 increase in professional services employment, about 500 increase in leisure and hospitality, a small increase in manufacturing, and a nice increase in the mining employment as well. So it's more than just construction. Those are the type of numbers that will produce the tax collection growth that we've seen here in recent months that's propelled us to meet or exceed estimate for this year.
Mike, you want to say anything?
Briefly, Governor, I was the finance chairman last year when you had that big deficit. And I remember it well when you projected $127 million of additional revenue. Actually, I was in the office. And I will admit at the time, I was glad you did it, but I wasn't sure it was going to happen. And here we are, not only at the 127, but 129. I was trying to remember if it was 127, 29. Memory's better than mine on that. You say you know numbers, but I can say, so here we are a year later, and actually having lived through that as finance chairman, I can say that when you do those budgets, you're having to wait a long time to see what really happened. Well, now we see what's really happened. It's 129 plus 30 or possibly 50. So I congratulate you on knowing numbers. And that helped us get through that time. So I just wanted to make that historic comment that you were absolutely right. And the $58 million that we've talked about, we look forward to it coming forward.
Yeah. I'm Mike McCown with the State Budget Office, and the Governor's right. When we sat down with him about 18 months ago, we did lay in his lap $497 million budget gap, plus a current year budget gap of over $200 million, which in the out years actually projected out to be way over $700 million. I was just sitting here looking at if I had to project those today, and I had to sit down with him and do projections for next year. We're right. That $497 million gap is about zero today, Governor. You would not have to come into the year cutting programs or anything like that. And if we do reach these surpluses, and now they're talking about general revenue now, and it could be 30 million, 40 million at the end of the year. But I just got some lottery numbers too that I'm not even sure that I just brought those. I haven't even shared these with the Governor yet, but lottery's up over estimate of almost 8%. So if those numbers hold, not only are you going to have general revenue surplus available next year, you're also going to have at least $30 million of lottery money that could be appropriated too. So good news just keeps coming, Governor.
It's good. It's good. And you got to think too that the reason the lottery's up, it has to be from the standpoint that people have some discretionary money. I mean, people, it's just an indicator, another indicator of where we're going. And we need to absolutely, like I said, over and over and over, we just need to be really proud of ourselves. I don't need any of you patting me on the back, but we need to be proud of what we've done and where we're going as West Virginians. And instead of us thinking we should know our place and our place ought to be at the bottom, and we can't ever be in Texas, or we can't ever be in Ohio, or we can't ever be, yes, we can too. Yes, we can. We're just that good. And we are blessed with 4 of the greatest seasons. We're blessed with proximity to where we are to the population, unbelievable natural resources, and unbelievable people. For crying out loud, we should have been this a long, long, long time ago. Nothing in the world can make me happier than this right here. So we'll take your questions. If anybody's got a question, we'll try to answer it as best we can.
Harold,
Yes, sir.
this is unrelated, but it's related. About a week and a half ago, I got an email study comparing states on how easy it is to get a job,
Right.
and they ranked West Virginia as dead last in the ability to get a job. It seems to me that the numbers you're putting out would tend to disagree with that finding.
Well, Rusty, look, let's just be real. I know for a fact that employer after employer after employer, great paying jobs in West Virginia, we're begging for people to come. Great paying jobs. And people are coming. And they're coming because these are the numbers. I mean, guys, every day we go open up the box, there's more money coming in. You know, I tease about it by saying, you know, if we don't watch out, we're just going to start filling rooms up with money and everything because our state is moving in the right direction. And if that be the case, some rating agency would come out and say West Virginia ranks last in the place that is the most difficult to find a job. You know, that's silly. That's just silly.
Governor, at the revenue report this time last month, you indicated that any companies you had that had back taxes would have those resolved in a matter of days. Where do we stand at this point on that resolution?
Phil, where we are is I think we're still waiting on one of the companies that I don't control or that my family doesn't control to sign off on. All the monies are escrowed and placed, and from my standpoint, all of my taxes in every way, shape, form, or fashion are paid. You know, but we do have a sign off, and I don't think that's been brought into revenue yet. I don't know if Dave knows or whatever, but I don't know that that's been brought in, but it'll surely be brought in June, and that'll help us a little bit even more. So all the monies have been in escrow a long, long, long time. Probably now going on, I don't know, 15 or 18 months, a long time. So it's just a matter of, there's always complexities. You know, that's the thing, guys, that you probably won't hardly fairly give into, but most of the time you've had in the governor's office, you've had a career politician. You know, now you've got a business guy. And a business guy that's done a lot of stuff and has got a lot of tentacles in a lot of different areas and everything else. And with those tentacles become, you know, people have to function in those businesses. There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be disputes. There's going to be things that have to be worked out. And there's lots and lots and lots of things going on all the time. I've told you all along, and I'll absolutely stand by my guns, every single obligation, and honestly, to be perfectly honest, it's a lot of obligations that I didn't create. A lot of obligations that I'm paying that were somebody else's doings, i.e. the Russians for one, you know. But obligations that I have in any way, shape, form, or fashion will always be taken care of. Maybe hard for a while, but they will always be taken care of. And by hard, let me give you a perfect example. The Greenbrier Hotel got washed completely away in the flood. It was the most terrible thing that could possibly happen in every way to the Greenbrier, but way more terrible than what happened to the families. We all know that. Well, just think, what if you'd gone out and bought the greatest insurance in the land that you could possibly buy? And you did. You had $600 million worth of coverage. $600 million worth of coverage on the Greenbrier. And the flood washes everything away. And your insurance company won't pay you. And it's a game that we all have faced at one time or another with an insurance company. There's problems. There's problems. You deal with them. You've never had a governor that is an entrepreneur. You've had politicians. And not slighting our other governors in any way, but my grandfather as a child was 50th. We have been 50th forever until now. Until now. And now we're on the move. So absolutely every one of my obligations will be satisfied. And if they're not, and the money's just sitting there waiting on an outside company right now, for what I know. Yes, sir.
If nobody else is going to ask about it, I will, even though it's off topic. But do you have any statement on news of former Chief Justice Lawford?
I really don't.
Probably hasn't heard it. We've
No.
been busy for the last 2 hours.
Yeah. No, I haven't heard.
He hasn't heard.
Tell me what it is.
Well, Rusty can't, there was a judicial, it's not an indictment, but I don't know the exact words, but accusing Judge Lawford of certain things that are serious, and it just became public in the last hour or two. We wouldn't have any comment on that.
I hate that. I really do.
So,
And the reason I hate it is because it just draws additional, negative attention to West Virginia. So, I don't know guilt or innocence by any stretch of the imagination. I couldn't possibly know that. But I guess I selfishly hate it for West Virginia. Okay, I always try to answer all your questions. I thank you for coming. We'll see you, I guess, in the morning. Thank you.